Hi, I'm Linda. I'm a registered dietitian, an exercise physiologist, and health coach for employees at Northern Kentucky University. I'm going to take you grocery shopping with me today. Michael Pollan talks about food as being minimally processed food. He also makes a point that it's important not only what you eat, but the amount you eat, which is very true with weight control. He sums this all up in his quote, "Eat food, mostly plants, not too much." A few tips before we begin. You want to start with the periphery of the store. Walk around the store where there tends to be less processed foods like fruits, vegetables, fish, lean meats, things like that. And then head for the inside of the store and target things that you have on your list. Which brings me to my next point. Be sure to plan ahead for healthy meals and snacks. People that I've worked with, and also myself, have been the most successful when I plan ahead for healthy meals and snacks and have a list with me. Also, be sure, as you've heard before, not to go shopping when you're hungry, or you'll come back with all kinds of unusual items that might not be the healthiest. So we're going to start right now in the produce section. The produce section is, if you're going to have a splurge, this is where to do it. You want to choose a wide variety of colorful fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables tend to be low in calories, high in vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. Getting plenty of them helps prevent heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, helps improve your cholesterol, your energy, and your immune health. So this is a great place to stock up. So different colors of fruits and vegetables tend to have different vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, phytochemicals, and so on, which are beneficial compounds in plant foods. So be sure to load up on a wide variety of colors of fruits and vegetables. Also, you might aim to get things that are in season, which is good for the environment because it doesn't have to be shipped as far, especially if you get some local produce. And also, it tends to be easy on the pocketbook and save you some money. When you have your fruits and vegetables, it's a good idea to buy fresh or frozen fresh. Frozen vegetables and fruit, that helps preserve the nutrients. And sometimes what I do is buy fresh for the beginning of the week and frozen fresh for the end of the week. And then I just steam them either on the stove or in the microwave. Make sure when you're buying your frozen fruits and vegetables that they don't have additives. Or if you do, that you account for them in your meal plan. For example, this is just whole beans and there's no added salt. Make sure on the fruits there's no added sugar. If there's a sauce, it's probably going to be higher in sodium and sugar, so check that out as well. Canned fruits and vegetables tend to be higher in sodium for the vegetables and sugar for the fruit, so it's best to focus on fresh or frozen fresh. If you buy canned vegetables, you can buy low sodium or you can rinse them to lessen the sodium. Sometimes I will buy canned beans to save myself the time of soaking and so on, but I'll be sure to rinse them to lessen the sodium. Remember, on the fruits, I would focus on fresh or frozen fresh, but if you buy canned, don't get the type canned with a syrup, a light or heavy syrup that's just extra empty calories from sugar. Get it packed in juice if you're going to buy canned. A good rule of thumb when you're shopping at the grocery store and planning meals is to make healthy choices from every food group. So we already talked about produce. You want to be sure to have vegetables and fruit at every meal, and perhaps for a healthy snack or two. In addition, it's a good idea to have some type of whole grain at every meal. Whole grain is a great source of carbohydrate for quick brain fuel and energy, and healthy choices are going to provide lots of vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and antioxidants. And by the healthiest choices are whole grains. So you want to be sure that at least half of your grain choices are whole grains. Examples of whole grains are oats and barley and brown rice, all of which are high in soluble fiber, which lowers cholesterol. High fiber foods also tend to keep you full, which is helpful for weight control as well. And can help keep you insoluble fiber, like in whole wheat, can help to keep you regular and help prevent colon cancer. Other examples of whole grains are quinoa, which is an ancient South American whole grain, which is high in protein and nutrients. You can serve it as an alternate side dish instead of rice, preparing it the same ways as you would rice. You can make it with a low sodium broth, add any type of vegetables or other protein foods to it. A couple of quick rules of thumb to make sure that your bread, cracker, or wrap or tortilla or cereal are truly a whole grain food are: number one, when you're looking at the ingredient label, make sure the first ingredient is a whole grain, like whole oats, whole wheat, whole rye, because the ingredients are listed in order of what makes up the product. Most is first, down to least for last. Also, make sure that you check out the serving size and make sure that it has 3 grams of fiber per serving. Make sure when you're looking on the label that you're comparing like serving sizes, so you're comparing apples to apples. For example, on this loaf of Wonder bread, it says made with whole grain white bread. If we look on the label, it says that there are serving sizes 2 slices. And for our first rule of thumb, it says wheat flour. That's not whole wheat flour, so it doesn't meet our first rule of thumb. And the second rule of thumb is the fiber. It does say 3 grams of fiber, but that's not per slice, as it is with many breads. That's per 2 slice serving. So there'd be 1.5 grams of fiber per slice. So it's better than a regular white, but not as good as a full whole grain product. This product, honey wheat, you might assume it's a whole wheat, and if you look on the label, it says the first ingredient is enriched bleached flour, so that's the refined flour where they've taken out many of the nutrients, fiber, etc., and added back in some of them, but not all of them. That's what enriched means. And for the fiber, there's less than 1 gram per slice, or 2 grams per 2 slices. So it doesn't meet our second rule of thumb either. So just because it's brown and says whole grain or says several grains on the labels, don't assume that it's a whole grain. This is a good example. It says 100% whole wheat. And then when we look at the label, a serving is 1 slice. The first ingredient is whole wheat flour. And there are 3 grams of fiber per serving, which is a slice. So this would be a good example of the type of bread we'd be looking for. You can follow the same rules of thumb for other grain products. For example, these crackers, a serving size is 4 crackers. The first ingredient is a wheat flour, which is not whole, and the second one is whole wheat, but yet it does have 3 grams of fiber per serving, so that would still be pretty good. We are in the seasoning aisle, one of my favorite places to be, because I love tasty food and I love to cook. And this is a great way to add lots of flavor without adding fat, calories, etc. So it's great for weight control. You can make things taste sweeter without adding sugar by adding spices like cinnamon, allspice, cloves, things like that. I like to season my light popcorn with things like paprika. If you have a history of high blood pressure or a fluid retention, you can assume that you're someone sensitive to sodium and you might want to cut back. So just be aware when you're looking at labels. Often it'll say right on the label if there's salt in it or not, like garlic salt versus garlic powder. You want to emphasize more the garlic powder if you're watching your sodium. Also be aware that there's a wide variety of products, herb blends and so on, that don't have any added salt. So just be sure to read the ingredient label to see if there's any salt or sodium or MSG, which is monosodium glutamate, all of which would add sodium to your product. And you can also check out the amount of sodium per serving on the label. Protein is an important nutrient, and an added benefit for weight loss is that you want to have some at every meal because it helps to keep you full. One very nutritious source of protein are legumes, the beans, lentils, etc., like black beans, cannellini beans, kidney beans, and so on. It's a good idea to try to get these at least 3 times a week because they're high in soluble fiber that lower cholesterol. They're low in calories, so they help to fill you up without very many calories. And they're also high in protein and folic acid, which is also very heart healthy. You can add them to your salads. You can make a low-fat bean burrito. You can make soups with them, etc. You can use canned and rinse them, or you can soak and use the bag varieties. Another great source of protein is fish, like salmon, tilapia, mackerel, herring, cod, etc. Fish like salmon and tuna, the fattier fishes especially, are great sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which are very heart healthy. In fact, the American Heart Association recommends that you get 2 small servings, 3 to 4 ounces of fish per week. Chicken and other poultry with the skin removed, baked, broiled, or grilled, is another great lean protein source, as are round or loin cuts of red meat. Here is a pork tenderloin, for example, that would be a nice choice. And here is a nice beef round that would also be a nice choice. And you can see there's not much marbling or fat in there, in contrast to some of the other cuts which have more marbling and fat. So think loin or round for your red meats. Try to limit your red meat to 9 ounces or less per week. Here we are in the dairy case, and I want to talk to you about the best way to choose oils and fats. First of all, a great rule of thumb is the more liquid a fat is at room temperature, the better it is for your heart. So sometimes think outside of the box and don't use butter or margarine. For example, maybe at your favorite Italian restaurants, they use olive oil for dipping. You can do that at home as well. You go very light on it because you need to be careful, because any kind of fat, heart healthy or not, is very high in calories. There's about 100 calories per tablespoon. So what I do with my garlic bread is just take a brush or a spray can and just put a little bit of olive oil on the bread before I broil it or grill it. It's very good. There are also a big debate about butter versus margarine. If you remember my rule of thumb, a tub of margarine or spray margarine is more liquid at room temperature. So in the same amount, it would be better than a stick of butter or a stick of margarine. But there are a few rules of thumb that you can remember when you're looking at your label. On your label for your margarine, you want to make sure that there are 0 grams of trans fat and no more than 2 to 3 grams of saturated fat. Trans fat is about the worst thing that you can eat. It raises your cholesterol and also increases your risk of other problems, perhaps cancer and so on. So you want to virtually eliminate it from your diet. Do be aware that when a product says no trans fat or 0 grams of trans fat, that legally means less than ½ a gram of trans fat per serving. So to be sure to look at what they call a serving versus what you call a serving, because that could add up fairly quickly. quickly, considering the American Heart Association recommends that you get less than 1% of your calories from trans fat, or on a 2,000 calorie diet that's less than 2 grams of trans fat per day. This would be a good example of falling within our criteria. A tablespoon of this margarine contains 60 calories, and it has 7 grams of total fat, 2 grams of saturated fat, which falls into our guideline of 2 to 3 grams or less, and 0 grams of trans fat. If you use a little bit of butter now and then, just use a small amount, use it sparingly. Another important food group are the dairy foods. Dairy foods are great sources of protein, which can help fill you up, calcium and vitamin D, which are great for bone and teeth health, in addition to muscular contraction and also blood pressure improvement. A great low-calorie snack or part of a meal is yogurt. Yogurt is filling, without very many calories, with lots of nutrients. Greek yogurt is a nice option. It's strained, and it tends to be higher in protein and lower in sugar and still very low in calories. Great for part of a meal or for a snack. Milk is a great part to include, a great food to include as part of your low-calorie meal plan as well. The American Heart Association recommends skim or 1% milk as opposed to 2% or whole milk, because they're lower in saturated fat and don't tend to raise your blood cholesterol as much. But also they are a great part of a weight control diet because they're lower in calories. For example, a cup of skim milk has 90 calories versus a cup of whole milk has 150 calories. So you can shave calories all day as you're having your dairy. Salads are often considered to be a diet food, and yet, depending on what you put on top, they can have as many calories as a Big Mac with fries and a soda pop. So be careful about what you put on your salad. First of all, it's a good idea to choose an oil-based instead of a creamy-based salad dressing. For one thing, there's less saturated fat and it's more heart healthy, and sometimes there are less calories, but check out the label. This is an oil and vinegar-based dressing, and in 2 tablespoons there are 120 calories. In this creamy-based one, this ranch dressing, 2 tablespoons have 140 calories. A tip on the oil and vinegar dressings, the regular fat ones, are if you want to, you can pour off about half the fat before you shake it up and put it on your salad. I want to make a couple more points about salads. Another option for a salad dressing is a light salad dressing, which is going to tend to be lower in calories. For example, 2 tablespoons of this dressing has 70 calories. So when you're looking at your label, be sure to look for both the serving size and the amount of calories. Another tip is when you eat out, have the salad dressing on the side. You might just dip your fork in it or just pour a little bit on there. Watch out for the other toppings on your salads as well, which can add a lot of calories, like fatty meats or cheeses and croutons and so on. We've left the store, and I want to make a few more points about weight loss and healthy choices at the grocery store. One common mistake that people make is consuming too many calories from sugary beverages and desserts. 1 can of soda pop, if you have a regular can of soda pop every day for a year, that's 14 extra pounds you weigh that year. A 20-ounce sugary beverage every day for a year on average is 25 extra pounds you weigh that year. So be careful about the calories that you're drinking. They don't fill you up, and they can really add pounds to you. So drink mostly water. If you're going to have soda pop, you might have a diet soda pop or 2. I would limit it to that. And other non-caloric beverages, unsweetened tea or tea sweetened with Splenda, or etc. As far as desserts, I know I was raised having dessert every day, and I have a sweet tooth, and I've come to the conclusion that desserts are fine now and then, but they shouldn't really be an everyday occurrence. So be careful about what you have on hand at home as far as desserts or fatty fried foods like chips and things like that. If you have mostly healthy choices at home, that's going to help you make healthier choices. To sum up, a few important points to remember are: shop the perimeter of the store first, have your list with you, and then target specific areas to do the rest of your shopping so that you have healthy foods that are low in calorie on hand for snacking and for having meals for when you're hungry. Also, don't go shopping when you're hungry so that you limit impulse buys. Thank you for coming with me on this virtual tour of the grocery store. I hope it's helping you with your weight loss goals.